All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you coming back. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button for me. But let's go ahead and jump into it, right? Let's talk about what has been dominating the headlines as far as the sports world, which is the LaMelo Ball trade from the Hornets to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think like everybody else, I was shocked by that. He was probably one of the last people that I would have considered as being, something that the Hornets would be willing to offer up, especially coming off of his previous season where it seemed like he was making progress, and was becoming, what they were hoping he would become. And then also too, just, overall, just wasn't thinking about him being a part of the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? And so the LaMelo trade might make the Timberwolves one of the most exciting teams in the regular season, but there's a real chance it creates a problem when it actually matters, and that's in the Western Conference playoffs. LaMelo Ball is in Minnesota. This is a bet on offense, pace, creation, and shot making. But him next to Anthony Edwards in over 82 games, that could be a nightmare to guard. But playoff basketball asks a different question. The Wolves' recent playoff exit already told us what the question is. They got bounced by San Antonio this year and Oklahoma City the year before. Those aren't just talented teams, they're complete teams, and teams that can score and defend and hold up when the game slows down, and that's the standard right now in the West. And if you want to know why this matters, look at the environments that LaMelo would have to survive. Against the top defensive teams in the West last season, his production dipped below his normal averages, where he only put up 17 points and 6 assists. Okay? So that's against San Antonio, that's against OKC, that's against Denver, that's against LA, that's against Houston. These are teams that they will have to go definitely obviously in the regular season, but when it comes out to the playoffs, they're probably going to be matched up with one of those teams. And so the reason his production might slip is not because he forgot how to play, but because elite defense's strength pace, or strength the space, they cut off reads and they force tougher decisions. That's the exact playoff environment Minnesota's going to be chasing. And I think that's going to be the case over the next decade, because the Western Conference has shown year over year that they continue to get better and they continue to get more competitive. And so in order to keep up with that, the right pieces, we need the right pieces for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so when you add that now with Anthony Edwards, right? So in the playoffs, we know that defense is already loaded up on him. The floor shrinks. The help comes early. Every late clock touch gets harder. So adding LaMelo gives Minnesota more creation, but it also creates kind of a new question. When the game tightens up, who's actually running the offense, right? Because both players are most comfortable with the ball. They have an incredibly high usage rate. And so being ball dominant guards kind of creates a dilemma of who's going to get the touches that they need in order to help the offense flow. And that's where the playoff fit gets more exposed, I think. In the regular season, two creators can take turns and overwhelm teams with the talent. And I know that's the part that most people are excited about, because on paper, I do think they are a great duo. I do think that we're going to get some excitement. And there's going to be a lot of attention drawn to that Minnesota market just because those two names are there, right? Both players coming, I think, out of the 2020 draft class. And so I definitely think the hype is justified in the sense of, yes, this is going to be exciting. So there's no question about that. But in the playoffs, the offense has to be cleaner, right? It has to be a lot more disciplined. Somebody has to space. Somebody has to cut. Somebody has to make quick decisions. If those roles aren't clear, the offense can stall and the defense really gets a lot of time to load up. And then there's the other side of the ball. What made Minnesota dangerous was defense, size, and structure. LaMelo raises the offensive ceiling, but playoff teams just don't attack your system, they hunt your weakest point. So if this move weakens Minnesota defensively, even just a little bit, that becomes a real serious problem. And while you're adding offense, you're also giving up size, depth, and flexibility. Naj Reid mattered because he gave the Wolves lineup options and physical insurance. That kind of depth matters most in playoffs where every matchup pulls on your weak spots. So if this is going to work, three things have to happen in my mind. First, stagger the stars so both can still run offense. Second, it has to grow off the ball. cutting, relocating, catching quick decisions. Third, Minnesota has to protect its defensive identity because if the defense slips, and I mean slips even just a little bit, the offense won't be strong enough to cover everything in the West. So best case scenario, this becomes one of the most explosive backcourts in the league. Worst case scenario, the Wolves become more dangerous in the regular season and easier to target in the playoffs. So here's my opinion, right? They raised their ceiling, no question about that. I think LaMelo's definitely going to bring a lot of offensive power. But they also raised their risk because playoff basketball isn't about how explosive you are, it's about how sustainable you are when the game slows down. This backcourt might win you games from October to April, but in the Western Conference playoffs, it's going to be tested possession by possession. And if that fit doesn't tighten up, it's not going to hold. You got to be real about it, right? I know it's exciting. I know Wolves fans they're chomping at the bits, man. They've been looking for a player like this, and I definitely think LaMelo could potentially be not just a floor raiser, but he could potentially become a ceiling raiser too, right? And that matters. So I do think there are some reasons to legitimately be excited about this trade, but I want to say let's exercise caution. Right? Let's proceed with caution. Let's be practical and really break down what this means because, LaMelo is really going to have to make probably the most adjustments. I think he's going to be coming from an offense in the Hornets that gave him a lot of flexibility. I mean, a lot of flexibility. And I think with the Wolves, given the success that they've had, the playoff success that they've had, kind of thinking about Finch's system and again the identity he's trying to build, I think there's going to be an adjustment period for LaMelo, and I think he's going to become obviously like a number 2 option, because it's Ant's team and is at the top of the hierarchy there, and I think he really is going to have to become a great playmaker, but more importantly, beyond all of that, he's going to need to show up in the playoffs and has playoff experience. LaMelo, on the other hand, right? Not so much. And so we need to see how he gets tested under those conditions to really be able to gauge how successful they are. So my automatic conclusion is not that they are going to win a championship next year. That's not my automatic conclusion, right? But I'm also making an assumption too because I don't know what else the front office has up their sleeve. I don't know what other moves they're going to pull off. I do know that they're going to have to strengthen their front court in order to win games. So LaMelo is just one piece of the equation. There are other pieces too that have to be added. So I don't want to put the weight of them winning just on him. I don't think that's fair to him. I don't think that's fair to Ant. I think that there have to be other pieces that complement that. So that team continues to grow stronger and continues to be more competitive in the Western Conference moving forward. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. That's just my thoughts on it. Just want to get that out real quick. But if you rock with Ant or you love real hoop breakdowns with no fluff, hit that like button and subscribe. We're breaking down all of this all season long, and hopefully I'll begin to put out a lot more videos in the coming weeks, days, and months. So I appreciate you, and see you on the next one.